Amazing things you have never seen before. This is a maned wolf. It's one of the rarest animals in the world and it's pretty terrifying. This is Vanta Black. It's the darkest material in the world and can make 3D objects look like 2D ones. This is one of the rarest and most terrifying parasites in the world. This evil parasite steals the fish's tongue and then takes its place. I never knew these existed. This is a brick road laying machine. If you look closely, you'll realize that this isn't 4 different pictures, this is one single picture. This is insane. This airport has a road going through it. And this is actually more colors than you've ever seen in your life. This is exactly 1 million colors.
If you have one of these in your home, then you need to know this new chilling theory. TikTokers have claimed ththese new viral furry labubus carry demonic energy, rumoured to be inspired by the demon Pazuzu. But Hotmart insists they're based on a children's book. Labubu owners have now taken to blessing their dolls with holy water to banish any evil the new toys may hold.
This truck driver took the life of 5 people because he was distracted on TikTok. On the morning of January 12, 2023, 36-year-old Danny Tyner was driving on Interstate 10 in Arizona when he drove his tractor trailer into stopped traffic. This scene is so difficult to look at, but basically his truck sandwiched 2 other cars with another big truck at the front. These are the 5 victims that lost their lives on that day, and when Danny was asked what happened, he said that he looked down for a couple of seconds because he got a notification on his work tablet, and when he looked back up, there was not enough time to brake. But that wasn't true. When his phone was analyzed, it showed that he was actively using TikTok when the crash happened. Now, what I found disturbing was that during his interaction with police, he didn't seem too fazed. He was eventually charged with manslaughter and was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for each count of negligent homicide, which totaled to 22.5 years.
Three incredible historic photos that 99% of people don't know about. Number 3. A boy fell into a zoo enclosure and a gorilla took care of him. This snapshot was taken in 1996 and featured Binti Jua, an 8-year-old Western lowland female gorilla. Although gorillas are generally regarded as dangerous creatures, when a 3-year-old boy fell into her enclosure, Binti Jua took care of the child. Astonishingly, the child had managed to climb and fall 23 feet into the gorilla's habitat. Number 2. Stray dogs protected and nourished this abandoned baby. I like to believe that the 3 street dogs in this photo appear to be smiling at the camera. This snapshot, taken in 1996, shows a newborn girl who had been abandoned in a trash bin near Kolkata, India. These 3 friendly dogs came across the baby and took care of her for about 2 days. The 4-legged friends even tried to feed the newborn. Number 1. A Native American Olympian has his shoes stolen just before his race. In the photo, we see Native American athlete Jim Thorpe in 1912. Someone had just stolen his running shoes right before his Olympic track and field events. Instead of letting this unfair play deter him, he rummaged through trash bins and found a pair of mismatched shoes, which we see in the photo. This did not prevent him from winning 2 Olympic gold medals on the same day.
1 in a Million, Part 7. On the right is the facial reconstruction of a 9,000-year-old skeleton that was found in a cave in Cheddar, England. His DNA was tested, and researchers found that a living relative was teaching history class only a half-mile away from the site, linking back 300 generations. Out of the 40,000 windows within the Twin Towers, only one of them survived 9/11. It's believed to have come from the 82nd floor of the South Tower, one of the 9 floors that was struck by the second plane. The first person to die during the construction of the Hoover Dam was surveyor J.G. Tierney on December 20th, 1922. On the same exact day, 14 years later, the last person died. It was J.G.'s son, Patrick Tierney. Uncombable hair syndrome is an extremely rare condition that literally makes the hair impossible to comb. It currently affects less than 100 people across the globe. A married couple from China discovered that they were in the same photograph as teenagers more than a decade before they even met. On July 4th, 1826, President John Adams' last words before dying were, "Thomas Jefferson survives." But little did he know, President Jefferson had died just hours earlier that same exact day. Not to mention it was exactly 50 years after the Declaration of Independence was passed.
I got sexually assaulted by Joe Gatto, the Impractical Joker.
Joe Gatto, one of the stars of the TV show Impractical Jokers, has been accused of sexual assault. Now, according to the girl who posted the TikTok and shared her story about what allegedly happened, she's been talking about this for over a year and DMing celebrities trying to get someone to listen, but no one really paid attention until now. So according to her, she met Joe completely by chance while having brunch earlier that day, and here's a photo from that chance meeting. So afterwards she DM'd him, and eventually she got tickets to go out and see him that evening at his comedy show. She also shared videos and photos of the show itself, and then afterwards she got to meet Joe one more time. And here's where it gets weird. Here are some screenshots that allegedly show their conversations. You can pause to read them if you'd like. But according to her, eventually, after she had been drinking for a while, he invited her to come up to his apartment. Here's a screenshot showing that part of the interaction. Now, she hasn't shared with us exactly what happened when she got up to the apartment, but she did share this photo which allegedly shows the aftermath of the encounter. And she refers to this entire incident as a sexual assault and claims that she doesn't like to go back there in her mind and doesn't really like talking about what exactly happened. Now, we haven't received any response yet from Joe Gatto himself, but as a massive Impractical Jokers fan growing up, this is massively disappointing. And I'll keep you guys updated if anything else happens in this case, because I'm sure there are going to be more developments.
Horses are much bigger than people, so naturally they just have a lot more blood than we do. So whenever horses get nosebleeds, it ends up looking like a whole crime scene. So one of the only reasons we know how many people died in the Titanic are the shoes that are laying on the ocean floor. Some are pretty cool, others are kind of depressing. And the reason we count the shoes instead of, bones is because when the Titanic hit the floor, all the corpses kind of just scattered and the fish ate the corpses, but the fish couldn't eat the shoes. If you ever decide to go climb Mount Everest, I hope that you remember that the crevices in the ice are V-shaped, which means if you were to ever accidentally fall down one, you more than likely wouldn't die instantly. Your body heat would melt the ice around you, causing you to slip further and further down until your chest couldn't expand enough to breathe. So make sure you bring a friend just as crazy as you to help get you out.
She was in the car when a brick came flying towards her. In 2012, 29-year-old Olga Gajkovic was riding in the passenger seat with her family. They were driving down a road in Russia just like any other day. Their car had a dash cam, not knowing what it was about to capture. In the video, a semi-truck passes by the family's car when a brick is seen flying in the air going towards Olga. The brick smashes the window and hits Olga in the head. Everyone in the car is screaming while Olga has been knocked out by that brick. Olga was rushed to the hospital but later died from her injuries. This is your reminder to be safe on the road and always be observant.
Is your school spying on you? I'd put money down and say that your school gave you a laptop to use for your studies. If so, open up Google Chrome on your computer and type in chrome://policy. This is going to allow you to see what your admin, aka your school, has allowed on the device. If you open it up and there's nothing there, that is a good sign. But if some policies actually pop up, you're gonna wanna click these link out buttons to see what the policies actually mean. When you click on that, if there's anything related to video capture allowed or screen record allowed, your school is watching everything you do. I'd recommend covering that webcam up.
The World's Most Dangerous Conspiracy Theories, Season 2. This picture represents conspiracy theories from the most well-known to the darkest. Some of these theories say that once you learn the truth, there's no return. For this series, we're going to be picking a couple from each category until we reach Tier 10, the point of no return. Alright, Season 2, welcome to Tier 1. Today, we're going to be talking about Ouija boards. A Ouija board is a board printed with numbers, letters, and symbols in hopes of communicating with the dead. The history of the Ouija board is just as mysterious as the game itself. A woman named Helen Peters claimed to be a very strong psychic and actually invented the board herself. Eventually, Helen Peters' brother-in-law named Elijah wanted to get these things patented so that he could sell these everywhere. Helen Peters and Elijah traveled everywhere trying to get this patent, but the offices said they couldn't release a patent unless they had proof of it working. But consequently, nobody in these offices wanted to even get close to the board for unknown reasons. Until one day they traveled to Washington, D.C., and the chief of patent walked in the room and said, "You don't know me and I don't know you." Then he said, "If this board can tell me my name, I will sign the patent for you right now." The board apparently spelled the man's name. He walked out of the office office, looked at Helen Peters and said, "You got your patent." Years later, Helen Peters and Elijah had a falling out, and Helen said she no longer wanted anything to do with this board. Elijah, on the other hand, continued selling these boards until one day he fell off of a 3-story building. He actually survived the fall, and some bystanders saw his body laying in the road. They picked him up, put him in the car, and they hit a bump in the road, and his broken rib pierced through his heart. After that, the family sold the rights to the board, and all the way up until Helen Peters' death, her last words is, "Do not play the Ouija board, it lies." And now you can buy a Ouija board from any store, and they're marketed to children. So the question remains, are these boards just a hoax, or was Helen Peters trying to warn us of something much darker? Make sure to like and follow for tier 2.
Here are some horror movie fates that are even worse than being sewn into a human centipede. Because just when you thought you've seen it all, I'm here to bring you the worst of the worst. I don't really see a lot of people talking about this, but there's one scene in this movie that still haunts me, and it's been years since I saw it. Wrong Turn from 2021 is about a group of friends who go hiking in the Appalachian Mountains. And there they encounter a cult called the Foundation, and this cult has a very unique justice system. And the scene that I'm talking about is how this cult chooses to punish people who commit crimes such as trespassing or even lying. One of the characters in this movie is sentenced to darkness, which is a punishment that is worse than death. And basically what that means is that their eyes and ears are burned out with a hot poker and their tongue is ripped out of their mouths. These people are then kept alive and thrown into a dark cave where they live the rest of their lives in silence and darkness. You literally see all of this happen in the movie, so that definitely traumatized me a little bit. But if you're into body horror, this movie will definitely give it to you. This is the 7th movie in the Wrong Turn franchise, but you don't really need to watch the other movies to watch this, it'll still make sense. A part of me kind of wishes that it was a standalone movie and had nothing to do with the rest of the lore, but overall I did like it. Let me know if you've seen any movies that you think are even more disturbing than the human centipede, and follow for more horror and movie content every single day.
In Spain, they say if you hear a sack dragging after midnight, it's already too late. El hombre del saco, also known as the sackman, is known as an old man who carries his sack around and kidnaps children. He is ugly, skinny, and eats the children he kidnaps. But don't worry, this only happens to children who misbehave. In 1910 in Spain, some believed that drinking the blood of a child and taking their body fat and putting it onto another person's body would cure tuberculosis. There was a man named Francisco Ortega, and he had just been diagnosed with tuberculosis, and he was desperate to find a cure. He went to see a healer named Augustina Rodriguez, and she sent him to a man named Francisco Leona, who was a barber and a healer. The man told him he could cure him for 3,000 reales, which would be equivalent to $13,000 today. Francisco then went to Augustina's son, Julio, and told him that in order to find a cure, they needed to find a child. On June 27th of 1910, Francisco used chloroform on 7-year-old Bernardo Gonzalez Barra and placed him in a sack. He was then taken out of the sack and stabbed. Francisco then mixed Bernardo's blood with sugar and drank it. Bernardo was alive for all of this, and eventually he was taken to a place called Las Posicas, and his skull was smashed with a rock. Bernardo's body fat was then removed so they could use it on Francisco's body. Once they were done, they hid Bernardo's body in a crevice with herbs and stones. Once Julio found out that he wasn't going to be paid for any of this, he went to the authorities and told them that he found the body of a small child while he went bird chasing. Once authorities arrived, they took Francisco Leona, the healer, into custody. During trial, all 3 men got in trouble and received death sentences. Since then, many have been afraid of encountering El hombre del saco.
This is a test to see if you have healthy eyes. If you pass all 5 levels, your vision is perfect. All you have to do is pick one out of the 10 colors that is different from the rest. Starting off easy, you can clearly see that number 7 is lighter than the rest of them. 97% of people pass this stage, but it's about to get way harder. Okay, let's move on to medium. This one is a little more difficult and will require a little more attention. The correct answer is 2. Level advanced is even harder. Only 30% of people make it past this stage, so really focus and you'll see that the correct answer is 4. Superhuman. This level is really going to test your vision, and I know these look identical, but if you look closely, number 4 is slightly different. And the final level, impossible. 92% of people failed this level, and the answer is 10. Were you right? Comment below.
3 paranormal and mysterious stories that will give you goosebumps. Number 3. In the 19th century, in the town of Amherst in Nova Scotia, a chilling and terrifying tale took root. Esther Cox, an ordinary-looking young woman, claimed to be tormented day and night by poltergeists. The spirits that haunted her moved objects, slammed doors, and scratched her. Despite thorough investigations and numerous accounts of this chilling haunting, the enigma was never solved. The mystery remains obscure, weaving a web of intrigue through the decades. Number 2. In 1809, an autumn chill takes hold of Europe. Benjamin Bathurst, a renowned British diplomat, is en route to England after a vital mission in Austria. On the way back, Benjamin takes a stop at an inn, where he mysteriously disappears. Despite intense searches, there is no trace of him. No one in the inn saw him leave his room. His shoes and belongings are still there, but there's no trace of Benjamin. To this day, his fate remains shrouded in mystery. Number 1. The legend of Ben Sublet, a tormented miner, who allegedly discovered an evil gold vein of immense value that could fill the coffers of several kingdoms. However, the location of this mine remains an oppressive mystery. Skeptics question the existence of this colossal wealth, supposedly hidden in the gloomy Guadalupe Mountains of Texas. Is Sublet's insidious treasure, a specter of gold and desolation, still waiting in the dark depths, ready to bewitch the intrepid who tries to unearth it?
This is the disturbing moment this woman laughed in court after she took this 3-year-old's life in a random attack. On June 3rd, police received numerous phone calls about a stabbing at a grocery store parking lot in Ohio. At around 3 p.m. on this day, 38-year-old Margot Wood was loading groceries into her car while her 3-year-old son Julian sat in his car seat. That's when 32-year-old Bianca Ellis entered the car and began stabbing the little boy. When Margot noticed, she tried to stop the attacker, and as a result, she was also wounded. Julian was then rushed to the hospital where he unfortunately passed away. Now, what's disturbing was that this was a random attack, and after looking at surveillance footage, the attacker was seen following the mother and the child in and out of the grocery store. Then, when Bianca was brought into court, the judge began reading out the indictment, and she was seen smiling and laughing the entire time. And after an assessment was done on Bianca, they're arguing that she has bipolar disorder and had a psychotic break, which explains why she did what she did. And this story only gets crazier. Before this incident, Bianca confessed to another murder in Bakersfield, and she even gave details of what she did with this person's body. She also warned officers that if she wasn't arrested, she was going to murder someone and eat their flesh. But none of this was taken too serious, and she was released from the mental institution, and not long after, she committed this heinous crime.
This is the world's smallest dog. Her name is Pearl, and she's a 2-year-old Chihuahua that lives in Central Florida. Pearl stands at 3.59 inches tall and weighs 1.2 pounds. She's shorter than a popsicle stick and around the same length as a $1 bill, and she can fit in the palm of your hand. Pearl was recently awarded the Guinness World Record for being the smallest and shortest dog in the world. She's a descendant of the previous world record holder, Miracle Millie, who is 3.8 inches tall, which is just 0.2 inches taller than Pearl. Pearl's owner describes her as a calm dog who likes to go for walks and play with her toys. She also said that Pearl loves the attraction she gets for being so tiny.
His mom took his life because of his sexuality. 17-year-old Itaberly Lozano lived with his mother Tatiana, stepfather, and younger sibling in Brazil. From photos, it seemed like they were a happy family, but it was far from that. When Itaberly came out to his mom saying that he was gay, their relationship deteriorated. She was not going to accept that, and she wanted nothing to do with him. Because of this, it resulted in her beating him, and she would tell guys from their neighborhood that if they were ever to see him, to beat him as well. This would cause endless fights with his mom, so Itaberly just decided to just live with his grandmother for a bit. On December 29th of 2016, Itaberly received a phone call from his mom, Tatiana, that she wanted him to go over so that they could talk in person and reconcile. He was very happy about this because he loved his mother so much, and he was hoping things would just turn around, but he was wrong. When Itaberly arrived at her home, he was greeted by 2 men, Victor and Millard da Silva. They were hitmen hired by Tatiana so that they could teach her son a lesson. These men beat Itaberly but refused to unalive him, so Tatiana grabbed a kitchen knife and just did it herself. Tatiana and her husband took Itaberly's body to a cane field and lit it on fire. His body was found about a week later, and forensic investigation was needed in order to identify his body. When Tatiana was brought in for questioning, she stated that it wasn't because she was homophobic, it was because Itaberly would bring home men, he would do substances, and he had even tried to unalive her. The 2 men were sentenced to 21 years and 8 months in prison, and Tatiana was sentenced to 25 years and 8 months.
Y'all, this is some crazy FB news, y'all. So this little girl right here had this baby, right? Tell me why This little girl right here had been being SA'd by her biological father since she was 9 years old and had shared 3 children with this man. Now, the reason that this all popped off is because the 2-year-old was like 6 pounds. So CPS got involved and found out the 2-year-old was being malnourished. And they got involved, and then they did some tests, and they realized that all 3 of the children belonged to her and the biological father. Now she's currently 21 years old, and allegedly everybody in the family knew about this. The grandma knew, the grandpa knew, everybody knew. This is some sweet home Alabama BS, because I don't understand how nobody told what was going on to anybody, to CPS. The 9-year-old tried advocating for herself and telling CPS what was going on, but they did not listen to her, nor did they believe her. Now, they did a DNA ancestral test and said that the 16-year-old and 38-year-old were related. That was her biological father. She is currently 21 years old. And it says at the time they were living at the same residence. And it also says that the doctor is taking care of the 1-year-old. And that's when they realized that the 1-year-old had features that resembled ancestral DNA, was like related, like they were related to one another. This is a picture of one of the children with the biological grandpa, who's also the biological father. This is another picture of the son with the grandma. Now, she knew. Now, I think this is the grandpa and the grandma. But they knew what was going on, and they did not help their granddaughter. And this is the entire post, pause to read, of the daughter stating what happened to her and her being ready to speak out about her situation because she felt like nobody believed her. And at this point, she's saying that everybody who did believe her passed away. And I believe that was the grandma, the grandpa, but they still didn't do nothing to help her. This is some crazy stuff, but this is her now, and this is the biological grandpa and dad now. He's still free and alive, and she's saying that, yeah, I honestly feel like he should be unalive, because why would you do this to your own daughter?
Karla Faye Tucker was sentenced to death for murdering 2 people with a pickaxe. And for years, that was the end of her story. Until something happened. Karla Faye Tucker was born again. While she was in prison, she became a devout Christian. She renounced violence. She became a model inmate. She even married a minister. So Karla Faye Tucker made the transition from a child being sold to men by her mother to a cold-blooded killer to a born-again Christian. And that was inspiring to a lot of people.
I was forgiven, and I experienced that forgiveness. It freed me up inside to soar.
Soon her case didn't really become about her very ugly crime. It was about redemption. Karla's dramatic religious transformation garnered her a lot of support within the Christian community, including televangelist Pat Robertson, and he usually championed tough-on-crime policies, but even he fought for clemency for her. The argument made by Karla Faye Tucker's supporters was this: the Karla Faye Tucker who committed these crimes no longer exists, so does she still deserve to die for it? It's definitely a thinker. It poses questions about justice, mercy. Is the goal of a prison sentence to punish or to rehabilitate? But here's the kicker. The problem with mercy in the legal system is that it's rarely about fairness. The question also needs to be asked about why Karla received the international sympathy she did, when many others on death row never did. Like, is it genuinely because she was rehabilitated, or was it because she was a soft-spoken, pretty white woman who fit the mold of someone worthy of mercy? On the other side, the families of Karla Faye Tucker's victims had their own questions. Like, why did Karla deserve mercy when she didn't have any for Jerry Dean or Deborah Thornton? By 1998, Karla Faye Tucker had been on death row for 14 years and had exhausted all of her appeals, meaning the only thing that could save her from being executed was being pardoned by the governor of Texas, who at the time was George W. Bush. He said no. He said she was found guilty by a jury of her peers, and it's their job to enforce the laws. So Karla Faye Tucker was executed by lethal injection on February 3rd, 1998. To this day, Karla Faye Tucker's case still haunts the death penalty debate. And it forces us to ask what justice is actually for. Would Karla Faye Tucker's life be better served helping other people in prison, or did she deserve to have her life ended because she brutally ended 2 other people's lives?